doing? Oh, okay. It's like wrangling cats. Who are we waiting for? Is Julian coming up the hallway? I'm going to start with Adam. I guess Councilman Jones is on his way. I won't keep us any longer. Good afternoon, everyone. There he is. Let's start with today's first order of business on page 4. We have a contract. Mr. Steve Walsh, will you come forward?
Madam Chair, members of the council.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with Northwest Recycling LLC to provide on-call snow removal and salt application services. And again, this is manpower and equipment to help us during a snow, if it ever snows. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. Contract commenced December 1st and would continue through February 29, 2020, may not exceed $25,000 unless approved by the council. And if approved, the contract would continue through April 30th of this year and includes 9 single-year renewal options. The upset limit is, there is no specific upset limit for this contract. It's tied to the amount appropriated for snow removal. And the specific payment for this vendor is tied to a schedule which mimics state highways. So again, we're fighting for resources with the state, and years ago, the contract was developed to maintain some ability for the county. Thanks.
Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Walsh? Thank you.
Thanks.
Next order of business, we go to page 8 and then page 11. Amy Grassi from the Department of Permits, Approvals, and Inspections. Oh, I see one here for me. Yay.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the council. I'm here on 2 contracts. The fiscal matter number 2 I will take first, and that is a potential program open space acquisition at 300 Church Lane in the Pikesville area of the county. The appraised value of the acquisition was $432,000 under the program open space requirements, which are the average of 2 appraisals that are not more than 20% apart. This price has been accepted by the property owner, and it's a 4-acre property, and there is 1 detached 2-story single-family dwelling and 2 garages on the property. It is currently vacant, and members of the community came to the county looking for this to be used as parkland. Pikesville is an underserved area for park space, and it's always an interesting opportunity from the Department of Recreation and Parks perspective when we get a chance for these smaller kind of pocket park areas in the underserved areas of the county. And so they asked that we reach out to the property owner, and so we bring this contract to you. Do you have any questions on this one?
Thank you. Would that be Mr. Jones? Is that Mr. Jones' district?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Amy.
Toka. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an important project. We have so little park and rec space in the 2nd District. We don't have, Madam Chair, we don't have a single rec center in the 2nd District of Baltimore County.
Get out of here.
Not a single one.
Not
No.
a single one?
And so, and That's in the third district. I mean, in the third district. Fourth. The ice rink, the Reisterstown Sports Complex is in Councilman Jones's district. And
Northwest
so-
Regional, yeah.
I'm from the east side, what do I know?
But
You were close, Councilman Crandall. I think this is fabulous. We need more of it. And hopefully we'll have opportunities to increase not only our park space, but our recreational opportunities for our youth and for older adults and for families. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grassi. Next, you want to go page 11?
Sure. Fiscal matter number 3 is a capital acquisition for the Moores Lane Bridge project in the Chairwoman's District. And this has a project that has had a number of acquisitions already come before the council. This particular property, the Warren property, has been subject to very complicated and long-running negotiations. The appraisals go back to 2015. We've been negotiating with this property owner since that time. The appraisals were $202,000 and $110,000 respectively. The property owner rejected our offer of the $202,000 when it first was offered. That was the believed to be the acceptable and appropriate appraisal by our review appraisers. They went dark for a long time. We were unsuccessful in getting any response from them whatsoever. More recently, the chairwoman has gotten involved and helped bring them back around and was a good conduit of information between my staff and the community out on Moores Lane. With her assistance, we were able to reinvigorate negotiations. They came back with a counter of $250,000. Given the complexity of the project, the complexity of the properties out there, and the prospect of potentially having to go to condemnation with the Warrens, we took the $250,000 offer back to the Department of Public Works after analysis by our appraisers and by our team that was working on the project. And Department of Public Works said, you know, given the cost-benefit analysis and the time that this has taken and the importance of the project, that the $250 was in the budget and that they could agree to moving forward with a contract in that amount. When we took the contract for that amount, the property owners refused to sign the contract. We turned it around in less than 24 hours and got there, you know, knocking on the door with the ink still hot from the printer, and they had changed their minds already. So we did come before this council for a condemnation approval on this property, but it became unnecessary to proceed with that condemnation. The property owners came back around and agreed to our contract with their price. And here we are, another step forward in completing the Moores Lane Bridge, which you may be aware, I've told you before, was a bridge that went over the CSX railroad tracks. It has been torn down because it was too low. The cars couldn't come through. So this is a widening of Moores Lane and a reconstruction of a taller, wider bridge up to modern railroad and highway standards. And it's part of Campbell Boulevard Extended.
Thank you, Ms. Grassi, and thank your team for all your efforts. Can you tell me how many sales are left? Are there any more? Are there any more? Or is this
There might just be one.
There's one left.
I believe so,
Okay.
yeah.
This is so important for any of you, anyone that's familiar with the area. The road has been closed for so long, and it was Moores Lane, has been renamed Campbell Boulevard, and this extension now goes between Bird River Road and Philadelphia Road. It will have 2 lanes that will go onto Philadelphia Road, then you can turn onto Campbell Boulevard right at the beginning of the White Marsh shopping area, and it's going to eliminate a lot of traffic on some of the other smaller roads. So thank you, this is critical, and thank you all for your hard work. I appreciate it. Oh, yes, ma'am.
And Madam Chair, we want to thank you as well. When the team briefed me on how complex this was and how I kept going back and forth with the owners, we want to thank you for your intervention because it is a very critical project, and we didn't want to delay in case they may change their minds again. But
Right.
on behalf of the administration, we thank you for your intervention to help get this one over the finish line.
No, thank you. Thank you for saying so. I appreciate that. Any questions for Ms. Grassi? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we can go to page 1, and that's Bill 1-20. And I believe we have Renee Coleman here from the Office of Human Resources.
Madam Chair, if
Yes.
I may,
Go on,
you
sir.
also have, I don't think they're going to testify necessarily, but you also have the state's attorney, Scott Schellenberger, and Ms. Laura Pulaski from the Crime Lab, who are also here and are supportive of this measure.
Okay.
And if you have any questions, I'm sure they would be happy to
Okay.
answer them as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Say hi to Scott Schellenberger.
Good
Proceed.
afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the council. This request is to create the full-time merit class of forensic biologist technical leader at the 2M salary grade. And this request is required for the police forensic lab to remain accredited to process DNA and to able to participate in the FBI CODIS.
Sounds great. Sounds like this is going to help us capture some more bad guys. Okay, we're all for it. Any questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, Mr. Schellenberger.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Okay, next we can go to page 2, and we have Council Bill 2-20. Mr. Patoka?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bill 2-20 requires a recipient of county funds to install an assistive listening system during the construction or renovation of an assembly area in an area that uses or requires the use of a public address system and a county contract that has been executed to enable the construction or renovation. The bill also modifies the composition and duties of the Commission on Disabilities to include the deaf or hard of hearing community and their needs. In 2019, the governor signed SB 1014 and House Bill 1192 into law. That legislation required any recipient of state funds to install it's really difficult to say, an assistive listening system in an assembly area during the construction or renovation. So this bill essentially mirrors the state bill that passed last session. We are working with the administration on some refining definitions so it fits our ability to really do this the right way.
Any questions or comments for Councilman Patoka? We have 3 speakers signed up. If Ms. Nancy Rogers would come forward to the testimony table, and then Mr. Albert Harris, if you could come forward. Well, you could probably just stay right there. You're close enough for your next term. And I would just like to go on record, Councilman Patoka, Ms. Beth Wiseman came to see me all the way down to my district office, and it was really nice. She's here today to testify, and it certainly was exciting to hear all the things that she's involved in, but how passionate she is about this, and how much I didn't know about this process and who it would affect. So, again, I want to thank Ms. Wiseman for coming in and seeing me.
Madam Chair, I would describe Ms. Wiseman as what I would call a community warrior.
There you
Yes,
go.
that's it. That's
Madam
it.
Chair, how many years has it been?
You know this rascal?
40. She was very active in the child support area,
Yes,
so
she
we've
told me that.
worked for years on that, and I appreciate all your efforts. And
We talked about that, too.
and appreciate what you're doing here. Thank you for being here. Good seeing you.
Ms. Rogers, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. First, I want to thank you, council members, for hearing about this bill, and thank Beth for getting the whole idea started and meeting with Izzy Patoka about it. So the first thing I want to say is that there are a lot of people in Baltimore County who have a hearing loss. It's people who are in their golden years, but it's also young people. I've had a hearing loss since I was in elementary school, but it's also people in all kinds of professions. There's lawyers, doctors, librarians, people who ride the metro or run the metro. So there's a whole different group of people, including a lot of veterans from all the different wars and the people who are coming back now from war who have lost their hearing due to explosions and other things. So when people come to a meeting, including a meeting like this, where you have a public address system, a lot of people with hearing aids and cochlear implants and other kinds of hearing loss cannot hear. For me, I depend on lip reading. For the people who came up here, my cochlear implant helps me hear, but to get exactly what you're saying, I really, really benefit from a hearing loop. I've almost dropped out of graduate school because I couldn't hear what was going on. Fortunately, I met somebody who taught me about where to sit and make sure there's no bright light. But as far as a hearing loop, it would have reduced my stress so much more and allowed me to actually pay attention to the words that are being said instead of just struggling to hear it all. And one of the benefits of a hearing loop is that it not only allows people to hear, but it cuts down all the background noise. People who are shuffling papers, unwrapping candies, talking to each other, dropping things, moving in their chairs. A hearing loop will eliminate all that background noise. So this would allow people to have meetings in libraries, in county council, meetings where you have, what do they call those? Town hall meetings, any place. It will open it up to everybody. A lot of people won't even go to meetings because they figure they're not going to be able to hear what's going on, myself included. And the ironic thing is, this meeting room is absolutely beautiful, but there's no hearing loop. I've had to go to court for other reasons. I could not even hear what was going on in my own case because there was no loop. They did provide CART, but the CART people could not keep up with what was being said. So this bill is a proposal to put in a hearing loop when,
You can finish.
when there's new construction, which will save a lot of money for the state. It's a lot cheaper to put it in during new construction. You don't have to tear down ceilings or put down carpet and have to put it up again. And also, it just makes people feel that they're part of a group, and it opens it up to all the visitors who are coming to your meetings, including your council meetings. And when you have your renovations, you can also put it in your new publicity so that people who need a hearing loop will know that they can attend your meetings and follow what's being said. Thank you very much for hearing the bill.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I can ask Councilman Patoka or our secretary, deputy secretary, this bill would only apply to new construction and new projects?
Correct, yes, where there's a substantial renovation. So if you're replacing the carpet, it would not apply. If you're ripping out, if you're gutting a building, then it would apply in two extremes.
And this it would only apply to publicly owned buildings? Or would it also apply to, for instance, we, through the Economic Development Office, we provide county funds to essentially incentivize and subsidize private construction?
So if it's an assembly room, and we're working with the administration right now on what that threshold would be. So we're looking at identifying, and these will come out as amendments to council members in discussions with the administration. We're looking at identifying or identifying eligibility when a building permit is pulled, and then for grants that come out through economic development, as you described, we're looking at a cost threshold, because if there's an assembly room and the county is providing substantial funds for assembly, then there's an obligation for that private entity to help people with hearing loss or hearing disability.
Got it. Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Next is Albert Harris. Mr. Harris?
Council people,
Good
my message will be short and sweet. A hearing loop is marvelous. It's a wonderful invention that is a blessing to have. To be able to relax, to sit back and listen to what is being said is a miracle in and by itself. To go into a concert hall, a theater, or my synagogue and be able to hear without straining is a pleasure. Please pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, we have Beth Wiseman. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Members of the County Council, I thank you for hearing this bill, for Izzy Patoka for introducing it. On behalf of BCASCO, the Baltimore County Association of Senior Citizens Organizations, my story is probably like everybody else's story. You don't realize that you're having a hearing loss at all, but you do realize that people are mumbling, people with foreign accents you can't understand over the phone. Young people run their words together. It's them. It's certainly not you. My hearing was fine. I don't know what caused me to get a hearing test, and I was shocked to find out that I needed hearing aids. When I finally got them and walked out of her office, this was on Route 1 in Bellear, on Bellear Road in Harford County. There was not a lot of traffic because it was in the afternoon. It was thunderous. I ran back in and I said, no, take them out, I can't use them. It took me a year of listening to my washing machine making all that noise and my refrigerator ready to explode before I finally put them in and worked with them. It was not the panacea I had hoped, though, because even though they're tuned to my hearing loss, the specifics, I couldn't hear everything. So even sitting in here, it's difficult. It is a strain for me to hear. With a loop, the sound goes from the microphone to the loop right into a T-coil. This will only work if it's a T-coil in the hearing aid or a T-coil in the cochlear implant. And so this will really open up the world to a lot of people. And we hope that you will understand this and help us with this. If there's anything I can provide for you that I haven't already said, please let me know, or let Izzy know, Councilman Patoka know. Sorry. And we'll be happy to find it for you. I thank you. Are there any questions?
Councilman Catch?
Yes, thank you very much. Beth, do you know, are any of our schools, this is for Stacy too, any of our schools or public buildings have this equipment?
I don't know. And also, Councilman Bevins and I were talking about the libraries.
Yeah.
The libraries didn't even have, there are 5 of them that I thought had a loop until I looked a little bit closer and realized it's not a loop at all. But they had some hearing, there was some, I forgot the long word that they used. But I went around to my library in Pikesville. No, they don't have it, but they did have a microphone. And then we found out that the people who were conducting the meeting had brought their own microphone.
Okay.
Ms. Wiseman, I had checked. We sent something over to Paula Miller in the libraries, and we haven't gotten anything back. We took a picture. There's actually a icon in the brochure. Ms. Wiseman, do you have that brochure with you?
I do have.
It's a brochure that the library puts out, And on the back, I believe, there's an ear, a little icon ear, and then two little like amplification lines over the ear. So most would think that they have some kind of hearing aid service in the library itself. And when Ms. Wiseman found those 5 libraries that icon was next to, they said, no, that just means we have a microphone. And you don't have to bring your own, but it's called an
Amplification system, right.
Yeah, they
right.
said they have an amplification with an ear, so it's a little misleading. It just means you don't have to bring your own mic if you have a meeting, they have a microphone. But when you see something like that, you know, it is a little confusing, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
we were asking why the ear was being used instead of like a microphone.
Yes, and I do have enough for everyone.
Okay.
Secretary.
Okay.
She was
Okay.
asking where.
Thank
she
you. Are there
came
any
out.
questions? Anything I can help with?
Yes,
Yeah.
Councilman Marks?
Thank you. One of the other elements of this bill would change the composition of the Commission on Disabilities, so that there is at least one person who is deaf or hard of hearing. Out of curiosity, I could not find this online. How is the composition of the commission currently constituted? In other words, do we require someone who is visually impaired? Are there any other specific metrics? I couldn't find it online, so I'm just curious.
While we're checking
And I
on
think this
that,
is a good bill. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Councilman Batoka?
Ms. Wiseman, so the coil, just so I understand it, is it like an antenna that connects to the listening to?
It's a little, the hearing aid comes equipped with it. A T-coil is already in the hearing aid, and so if it's looped, then they just kind of flip it, make a little flip, so that the sound goes right into the T-coil.
I see.
Goes right into the T-coil, you don't hear anything else.
It's like a receiver that hits that connects to the loop?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wiseman.
Thank you.
If
you
I may,
find that?
Mr. Marks,
Yeah.
in answer to your question, it may not be as specific as maybe we're talking about with this bill, but on page 4 in line 8, the current law states that to the extent possible, all types of disabilities must be represented. There must be 3 members who are guardians or family members within 2 degrees of relationship of individuals with disabilities. And there must be not less than 10, but not more than 25 members who represent private organizations and agencies providing services to individuals with disabilities. So that's really the specifics, although not as specific as again, what this bill indicates, where some of those persons with disabilities could be blind or people with sight limitations.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilman Crandall?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is more out of, I guess, curiosity than anything else. Is there anything in the ADA statutes, the federal statutes, that require compliance or require assistive listening devices? Again, out of curiosity, I agree with Councilman Marks. I think this is a good bill. I'm not trying to criticize the bill in any way. But I'm just wondering if this wouldn't be an ADA requirement at some point, if it's not already.
You're right, Councilman Crandall. There's an ADA reference chart that has standards in it that we're going to reference that ADA compatibility chart in this bill as one of the amendments.
Okay, thank you.
And I think just one other thing I'd like to point out is, if we've all seen the data. Baltimore County is getting older and older, and as we grow older, these devices are going to become more important, and this hearing loop is going to become more important to the quality of life of a good number of our residents. So, therefore, this bill is really important looking to the future.
Anyone else? Okay, moving along. Let's go down to council business. We have on page 14, resolution 14-20. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't need that, Mr. Crandall. Never mind. Resolution 21-20. Who wants to lead with that? Councilman Catch, Marks, or Patoka?
Madam Chair. This legislation, what it would do is it would reschedule work group meetings, in other words, what we're having now, until 6 o'clock in the evening, giving people who work the opportunity to attend and testify. You all need to know that every member of this council is very interested in setting up these meetings at times where the most people can come and testify, especially those people who really are interested in a particular bill. At lunchtime, we had quite a discussion about this with many good ideas on how to open up the voting session and this session for more input. So I put this bill in for 6 o'clock. I know that the county executive, that was part of his campaign platform, to have work group meetings at 6. Now, a number of, I think, good ideas were talked about at lunchtime. One was to schedule the voting sessions to 4 o'clock and the work sessions till 6 o'clock, because by definition, a work session is one where there could be more involvement by the public in the decisions that are being made. You come with an amendment and it can be discussed, etc. Whereas during the evening sessions, yes, people are given the opportunity when the session is over to speak. And sometimes we have had people speak about legislation that already passed or failed. Now, there was a suggestion, which I think is a very good one, that during the voting sessions, we give the public the opportunity to testify prior to the meeting on bills that are going to be voted on that night. So there's various ways to change things, tweak things, to hopefully open up the system more to the public. Another one was to have both meetings at 4 o'clock. Another one was to have the voting sessions at 4, the work sessions at 6. I mean, there are all kinds of ideas, but the purpose is for more public involvement in this system of legislating in Baltimore County. And you know, I of course, was in the legislature for years, and yeah, you didn't know? They didn't know.
I wasn't me.
You didn't know? Oh, yeah, I was, you didn't know that? You didn't know?
Was it 40 years?
Yeah, it was
Izzy
40
was a
years.
planner.
And Izzy was a planner.
Izzy was a planner. I was in the legislature for 40 years. Well, anyhow, I,
An effective legislator.
thank
and
you.
an effective planner.
Thank you. Were you an effective planner?
I think so. Lots of people tell me I was.
Okay. Well, did you pay him? No? Yes?
Okay, let's get this
Good.
bill
Well,
under control.
anyhow,
These are out of control.
I apologize for Councilman Jones. But anyhow, in the legislature, we did have different ways of getting public input and in legislating, and try to bring some of those ideas here. So that's where we are, and we're going to be talking about this over the next couple of weeks, and I'm sure we'll come up with some changes that will give people more opportunity to participate. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Councilman Bachoka?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's important to move this to have work session at 6 o'clock. I think we have more and more two-parent families that are working. Both parents are working, and so there's not an opportunity to provide testimony or not optimal opportunity for them to provide testimony at a work session, and also, I think it's an opportunity to get more and more young people engaged. Kids my son is 18 years old, and he's in school, so he can't come and testify in front and he's very opinionated. I can sometimes too opinionated, but I think it's a great opportunity to get young people involved in their government. It's a great opportunity to get families that have two working parents involved, and I also think it's a great opportunity for us as a council to be more informed, because if you're armed with information, I think you can make really great decisions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilman Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's no question about it. We all want to make sure that every person, every citizen, have an opportunity. In some cases, we have one person, I won't mention his name, but he's our favorite person to come from Harford County that feels compelled to testify about everything in Baltimore County. But in any event, we welcome him as well. We would like everybody to have the opportunity.
That's Cecil County. He was in
Cecil County?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he was in Harford County.
Yeah.
Oh, in his mother's basement, okay. But anyway, I think my colleagues, I think the intentions are good. I think we all certainly want to give the citizens an opportunity to come and testify whenever they feel the need. But let me just say this. In today's times, we receive more emails and phone calls than we do people testifying. That is one way that people communicate with us. You will be hard-pressed to find any person in my district, or if that's the case, even some of these attorneys around here, that make an appointment with me and I not meet with them. So I'm very accessible. This is and we have made changes to allow us to extend a bill in case we don't have enough information. And I think one of the fallacies that is sort of being put out there, people talk as if the work session is the only opportunity you have to communicate with the council. So I'm going to ask you, what's in a name? What does the name work session mean? Today, we have people come and testify on an issue, and all council members sit here and heard you. In some cases, we engaged you. At the end of every council meeting in the evening, people come out, they testify, all the council members sit here and listen, same people at that table sit there and listen, and we engage them. So don't think that the work session is the only opportunity for people to come here and communicate. What I'm going to suggest is that if we change the time, we will be making it less accessible to citizens. Because right now, citizens have an opportunity to come during the day for the work session or in the evening at the council meeting. If you make it all in the evening, I'm going to tell you, I know quite a few seniors that don't drive at night. They don't drive at night. They don't feel comfortable. We will be telling them, sorry, get a job during the day and then come at night, because that's what we think everybody does. Everybody has different lives. People have different jobs. People are at different places in their life. So we should be trying to make sure people have plenty of opportunities to come here. Now, let me just say this real fast, if you will, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Give me some time. On a typical bill, any bill that we introduce the bill. If you want, I can go through some times. I don't think it's necessary, but I don't want to get caught up in the dates. But let's just take a typical bill, because what you have to understand, 90% of the time, we're doing housekeeping running Baltimore County government. Every bill above $25,000, everything we spend above $25,000 has to come here. So most of the time, that's what we're doing. Most of the public is not interested in 90% of what we do. Approving a contract for snow removal or you name it, Today, we have a contract for snow removal. We're purchasing a couple of properties. These are not things that the community come here and testify for. We have hot-button issues, maybe 4 or 5 a year. So let me get back to a typical day for council, for a bill. We introduce the bill. Then there's a council meeting the following week. People can come and testify on that bill or anything they want on the council meetings. They can talk about dogs, they can talk about rats, they can talk about, you name it, we've had it all. They can come here and talk about those things. The same council members that are here today will be there at that council meeting listening and engaging people. And then a week later, they have an opportunity to come during the day, during the work session, and testify. And then one of the proposals we have made in the back room, right now, the following Monday, now we're into like week 4, people have an opportunity to come that night. And what we were proposing was allow them to testify before we take the vote. Because if they're here, that's okay. We don't have an issue with that. At least I hope, I'll see how all of my colleagues feel. But it was discussed. So that's an opportunity for them to come in the evening and testify. And that's not counting emails and phone calls and visits. And now let's talk about the hot button issues. Let's talk about the timeline of a hot button issue. So I took an opportunity to look at a couple of hot button issues as of late. So let's start with the Home Act. Before the bill was ever introduced, the county executive, and I stood there with him, and my colleagues stood there with him, did a press conference, talked about the Home Act. We're going to do this Home Act. The very next, that was on October the 4th. October the 7th, when the bill was introduced, people were here that evening to testify about the bill. It wasn't the work session, but the same council members sit here, and we heard the people testify about the bill, both for it and against it. And then they went on later on at another council meeting, they talked about it, and they talked about it at the work session, and then, of course, we had a vote. The same scenario just played out with the SAFE Act for gun stores, gun shops. Same scenario. The only difference in this one was we had a press conference. The bill was not introduced right away because they were still working on it. People came out and testified that night. Before the bill was ever introduced, people testified both for it and against it. And then we went through and people testified at another council meeting. So I guess my point is, I don't want to get caught up in the name. People need to come during the evening for the work session. Well, people have plenty of opportunities to come and solicit us and talk to us and engage us. So, Madam Chair and my colleagues, I think what would happen if we were to move the work session to the evening, number one, we will be cutting out a lot of seniors, cutting out their opportunities to come here. Number two, we will be ignoring the fact that many people work in the evenings, plenty of people work shift work, that they would not be able to come here. And then what we would do is not only incur an additional cost by making all the employees that work here who always come in and have to testify on these contracts, we would incur a cost by making them work at night, paying them overtime or comp time or whatever it would take to compensate them for being there. And they would not be able to go to their family events. Like maybe that night they want to go to a PTA meeting. Maybe they want to see their kid play baseball. Maybe they want to, go to a Bible study. But they would be working here. Now, as it relates for me, I retired 3 years ago. But just about every evening, I'm out at some community event. That would be another night that I can't go to the citizens of my community that have issues that they want to talk to me about, but I would have to be here. So I don't think that changing the work session is necessary. I don't think it's productive in terms of getting more people here. I guess, think that there's things we can do. For example, when you look at a bill on the website, when you look at the bill, we tell you, this bill was introduced this day, the work session on this day, the third reading and final vote is on this day. We can do a better job of telling people, the bill's introduced here. By the way, feel free to come on this council meeting and talk about it. Come to this work session, talk about it. Contact your council members and talk about it. We can do a better job of letting people know their rights. We can do these things other than sort of make 90% of our meetings in the evening just because 2 or 3 people may be benefiting. At the same time, we're cutting out a lot of seniors. That's my, I would say 2 cents, but it's more like $1.50. But thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, I appreciate your comments. You mentioned most of the things that I was already going to say. I've been on the council 9 years, and I know they have an expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah. And I have not, we talked about this earlier, I've never had a community association or anyone in my district say to me, I really hate that the work sessions are during the day and the council meetings are at night. I've never experienced that at all. We all talked about that, and many of us, it's not a conversation that ever came up. I mean, anyone can email us, call us. Now it's televised. You can watch us 24 hours a day live. You can stream us at any time. We did pass the bill for a longer length of a bill, and I think that we've made a lot of changes. And I agree with you, Councilman Jones. If we take away the daytime work session and have both in the evening, it will take a lot of people out of the process. Look, we all know people come here during the day. There's people here today. And there are people that work 3 to 11, 11 to 7. There are people with flex time. They telecommute. It's a whole brand new world out there. Everybody's not 9 to 5 and strapped to a desk and can't get out during the day. And we all know that when we have, like you said, hot topics, it's standing room only in here. There's hundreds of people in here. So I believe that if the bill or the legislation, the resolution, whatever you're interested in, if it's important enough to you, you'll get here. So I'm having difficulty with changing the time, and I respectfully disagree with when you say the county executive campaigned on this. I know he did, but a county executive you can't campaign on a council matter, just like we can't campaign on a county executive matter. So I know that the county executive would like more transparency, and I believe that's what we've been doing all along. So I'm prone to not support changing the time. I'm not saying if anybody has anything else that they want to add, but we had a pretty lengthy discussion. I don't know with changing it from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock opens up any more doors than having it 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but get people in severe traffic coming in and going from Townsend. But I think we could do a better job, Mr. Secretary, at the way we do post and putting it out to the public. And we can all do that with our community associations, priming them to legislation that we're getting ready for, and that they have 3 opportunities, not just the work session, 3 opportunities to come out and speak and be heard. But I think all 7 of us sitting up here are very active in our districts, and our constituents are very informed on how to reach us and how to come and testify. So I guess we'll continue to have this conversation till next week.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't, well, obviously, I don't agree with everything that's been said, but, I can say that the 7 members of the council are very interested in as much public input as possible and to make it as convenient for people to attend meetings. Now, to say that there are 3 opportunities, there really aren't, because the 3rd opportunity would be under today's rule. What happens today would be after the bill's voted on, and that doesn't make any sense. So I was happy that Councilman Jones suggested that we hear at the voting session comments about a bill we're going to vote on before we vote on the bill. I will never forget the first couple meetings, and people get up and they testify on something we voted on already. I said, what? I don't understand this. You know, you want to testify before, not after. So that's certainly one option that we can
I agree with that.
take to open up the system more. The other thing that shocked me was we would, on Monday nights, amendments would show up almost at the very last minute that we'd all be voting on, and the public wouldn't know what those amendments are. And I think that is a problem. And so our system's not perfect. Nothing's perfect. I'm sorry to the rest of you. Nothing's perfect. But, I know that this council will strive to open up the system more than it's open today. And believe me, public input is very valuable. I was a school teacher, so I know something about that. I've never been a doctor. The medical profession, I don't know much about. So, you have people who are very familiar with a particular area that can be very helpful to us, and they need to have the opportunity to have meaningful input. Thank you.
I agree with that. I think a lot of our amendments actually usually come from the public. When we're out in the public and association meetings and meeting with people, they come up with ideas, and that's when we come forth with our amendments. I think most of you would agree they come from the public themselves. So I think that that's very helpful. And I do agree with you. It's very important. I just am questioning all the different avenues that people already have to reach out to us. I guess that's just the disagreement that we're having. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, I guess want to thank you as well as.
Are you yielding time because you've used all your time?
Yeah, well, I'm in the next week. I just wanted to thank you and Councilman Katz and the other council members. These things are real serious to us, and we do our very best to make sure people are here. But I'm here to tell you, in today's world, one of the best things we did was the live streaming, and is always available. Because people have an opportunity to see what's going on. People have an opportunity to send emails. They can watch what we're saying today at 2 o'clock in the morning if that's what they want to do.
And they'll let us know tomorrow what
and
they see
they'll let
today.
us know after they see it. You were talking about citizens participating. It's interesting. We have quite a few people that, they really do a great job. They're not employees of the county, but they watch everything we do. And they send us recommendations. They find loopholes. They do a lot of. Matter of fact, our favorite one, I think he got a job because I haven't seen him in a while. I'm not going to mention his name. It's not fair to him. Anyway,
I think you might be right.
Anyway, that's all I have to say. I want to thank everybody here who came out today for being here. We certainly appreciate your presence.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, just one brief thing is, I know we've been talking about these different hours, and so we've all been kind of doing a little weighting system, I guess you'd say.
Tom's a nerd and is all
That's
about
right.
numbers.
That's right. Just for fun. This was indulging fun, and which is nice to have once in a while on the council. But there is a little bit of a consensus. Trying to really thread this needle, like a 6 p.m. work session, so that way people that really want to come out and testify, they have plenty of time to do that. And then make the voting session where less people would come out at 4 p.m. And that seems to be, out of all the different options we all looked at, that seems to be one that the vast majority might be able to support. And just try to find that compromise, which is sometimes hard, but from our weighting system, that's definitely the clear winner. So we'll see.
Thank you, Mr. Court.
It's not binding by anyone, but it's still
Okay.
a little fun.
Yes, Mr. Crandall.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
I'm back.
I don't think there's an easy answer to this. in terms of changing times. One person's convenience is another person's burden. So I'm kind of wondering, Mr. Secretary, if we might not pull Mr. Petticord off of the golf course and get a little history maybe on why were work sessions and legislative sessions structured this way. Because for me, I like the balance. I like the ability for people to come and talk to us during an afternoon and come in a legislative session at evening. I think it's a good balance. And I can't imagine that the time of our sessions were scheduled arbitrarily decades ago. I imagine there was some thought that was put into it.
I think I don't think, there was, Mr. Crandall, and you're right, this has evolved over a number of years, and I could definitely speak with Mr. Petticord because he was here for a number of years, and get some more specific information. But you're right, this is something that I think, as I told you earlier, the council at one time had one meeting the first Monday of each month. And in fact, that's what is required by the charter. And then at some point, and I'm not exactly sure when, and these are the kinds of things I could ask Mr. Petticord directly, but at some point the council then went to the first and third Mondays of each month because I think it was perhaps because the workload, frankly, was getting more. There were more contracts and there were more things that the council was considering, so they broke it up essentially into 2 meetings a month, except that they kept the summer at one meeting, which we currently still do. There was also a time when council meetings, that is the legislative sessions, were at 7 p.m. In fact, when I first got here, and I think some of you folks during your first terms, that's when it was, and I believe in 2011 or 2012, they were switched to 6 p.m. And I think that was, frankly, for convenience of the citizens, because 7 p.m. you're getting pretty late. So that was done at 6 p.m. and the work sessions have been 2 p.m. for as long as I can remember since I've been with the county in 2000, and I'm sure there are a few other people that can attest to that. So I can certainly look into it more, but and again, nothing is in stone. These are things that can evolve over time and that we can tweak.
Thank you. I guess I would when we do things on the council, especially with bills and measures like this, we're usually trying to solve a problem, and sometimes problems evolve. For instance, we change zoning regulations based on the fact that land use changes over time, and something that was written in 1965 doesn't necessarily pertain to a land use or an allowed use in a particular zone right now. So we see a problem and we correct it. So I'm just wondering what problem we're solving, given that we've. It seems to me this is kind of a solution run around looking for the problem. So I have to agree with Councilwoman Bevins that my constituents have not expressed to me that they feel left out, that they don't have input. I have offered amendments and put language into bills that have come directly from my constituents, and some of them aren't my biggest fans, and I've still included their language in the bills because it made sense. And Councilman Katch, I mean, I fully appreciate your concern about amendments being offered from the dais without appropriate discussion, which is why we did legislation to be able to extend the life of a bill so we could allow for more public input and more examination on our own part. So we should probably use that extension. And someone make a motion, second it, let's vote on it. Because, again, what is the problem that we're trying to solve here? And does, as Councilman Jones says, does changing the time, does it just exacerbate another problem? Does it create another problem for folks who can't come at night? So if we want to get to the heart of it, which I think that we had a good discussion earlier today, I think that we need to get to the heart of the problem. And maybe Councilman Jones' suggestion has merit that we allow testimony before we vote on a bill. Do we need a charter change or anything for that, Mr. Bostwick?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't believe so, but that is something that I will look into in the code and the charter.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm done.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I think it would be helpful, just two comments. One, I think it would be helpful to get a retrospective look from Mr. Petticord, but I also think it may be just as helpful to look at best practices across the state, because we're not the only county council in town, and so we can see what other county councils do, how they operate, what is the best way to get public input. You know, there's 23 counties and Baltimore City. I think there are 9, maybe 10 that are charter counties with an executive and a separate executive body and legislative body.
Councilman, I would add, too, that we know if we go totally evenings, 6 p.m. for both, if we move towards that, we know that there's going to be an additional cost to the taxpayer. So I'd like to know what that fiscal note is.
Well, that'd be helpful information. I will say, and I cannot speak for the other 6 districts, but when I met constituents of the 2nd district on their front porch for a year and a half of talking to constituents on their front porch, this was an issue that was brought up, and it was brought up, it was a pretty prevalent issue in the district that I was elected to represent. So I'll speak on behalf of residents of the 2nd district that it was of concern when I was doing the most intense outreach I could possibly do.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the same for me. In fact, I put the bill in, I think about 2 years ago, something like that, and I put it in because of constituents' concern. They had jobs, couldn't come in during the day to testify, and I believe that the county executive, who is a citizen, so he should be able to have an opinion, but but anyhow, that's why he supported it too. I think he had heard from people. They weren't happy because they didn't have the opportunity to testify at a work session because they had a job. I was a teacher. I can assure you, you cannot just take off when you're a teacher. Yet, they'd have to bring in a substitute teacher, and believe me, usually it would be another teacher who's assigned to that particular time period, and that isn't good. It just isn't good. You're putting other people out. So in some jobs, you just can't leave and take off. It just is not realistic because the schedules are set, and that's it.
Mr. Catch, I'm just going to say, when we were talking about solar, all your people must have put in for a vacation day. Yes, they were all here. They were here.
There could have been more.
Councilman Quirk.
Yeah, I would just say, just from thinking about this, the 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. option was definitely one that I don't think has the votes to pass. I would say that pretty easily. I would say the second best option is to stay as it is. Like, just looking at how everybody sort of weighted all this. And then, but I do think the compromise, if we want to try to compromise, is the 6 p.m. work session, which I would say is the voting Tuesdays versus Mondays. We'll have to figure that one out. Which one's on a Monday, which one's on a Tuesday. I'll just...
Thank you, Mr. Quirk.
I'm just stopping there.
Okay. We have one speaker signed up, and that is Marsha McLaughlin.
Madam Chairman, council members, this is a tough issue. I understand completely. I'm speaking tonight as an individual, not as part of any group I may be associated with. I'm mostly talking from my experience of 27 years in Howard County and a lot of time with county council work sessions and hearings. There is no perfect solution, but They have had council sessions that took testimony in Howard County at 7 o'clock at night. It could be 6, it could have been something else, but it's always been in the evening because there are more people who work during the day than on different categories of shifts. And when we would have a night for public hearings, it would be packed all the time, full. Now, I think the technology these days is very different. A lot of my 27 years, you didn't have the ability to email your council members. It may help to be able to clarify that if somebody wants to comment and send in testimony to all 7 of you, it will count as testimony. I think we expect as citizens that we have to come and speak into a microphone. Does it count if you just send it? I think that's an important part of it, but I do think there are a lot of people who want to be able to hear what everybody else is saying, because I work particularly in planning and development, which is often contentious. But you have whether it's budget, there are many contentious issues. So people want to know what the other interest groups are saying, and they can't tell what that is if they only have an opportunity to input e-testimony or to come visit one of you separately. So people want to understand kind of the gamut of what's being proposed. And if there is only one time that they could come in the evening, it ought to be as early as possible, so you have the time to sort out the competing interests and work on amendments. If you hear them at the last minute, either just before you vote or just after you vote, if there's good points raised, you can't possibly reflect it in the decisions that you make. So having it happen early in the process is important, and letting people know how they can come in a way to you and hear what the other people are saying. Maybe other people's testimony gets put online, so if it's not always going to be at a session when they can hear other people speak at the same time in the evening, then maybe there's a way of at least knowing what various interest groups are presenting so they can reissue more testimony to you to argue their case. Thank you.
Thank you. I think
Can I ask a
Mr.
question?
Jones.
No, Madam Chair, I was just thinking about something. I know a little bit about Anne Arundel County. And from what I'm told, Baltimore County got charter government. Then like close to 10 years later, 8 years later, Anne Arundel County went charter government. They hired the same company that did Baltimore County. And I'm told that the company literally scratched out Baltimore County and wrote Anne Arundel County. And so that's why Anne Arundel County has the same setup we have here today, and almost the same charter. Of course, things have made different routes over, 40, 50-year span, but they certainly started out the same.
Councilman Marks?
Thank you. I believe we have some representatives from the League of Women Voters in the audience. So I just wanted to acknowledge them and thank them for coming.
Anyone else? Before we conclude today's work session, I would like to wish Stacy Rogers, our county administrator, a very happy belated birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Madam Chair, would you lead us in song?
And see, if we would have had this meeting at 6 o'clock tonight, you wouldn't be able to go out with your family and have cake. Just a happy birthday, Stacy. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Good. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Oh, no. Oh. No. No, I was going to say something about Natalie's. Huh. Oh, that's right. Ah, see? Shoot yourself in the foot.
It's not about me.
Shoot yourself in the foot on date night.